Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well, and I am clearly audible and visible to everyone. So, without any delay, can you guys let me know, first of all, is my voice is pretty much clear to everyone or not? And then maybe we can start our session. Those whosoever is watching me live, can you guys confirm to me that whether my voice is clearly audible or not? Loud and clear. Thank you so much, Bhupesh, for the confirmation. A very good evening to all. So, how are you guys? It's been a while. I haven't interacted with you all. So, how is everything going? So far, so good. I think last also I have taken live only, um, and that is about in the last session what we have covered up. Yeah, that overleaf session was there, right? That how we can master overleaf step by step guide. Okay, perfect. So now in today's session, the objective is about the lead code part. As I hope you can already seen from the thumbnail or heading, maybe आप लोगों ने देख लिया होगा, that we will try to cover up today. Lead code part, specifically, I'll not focus on the questions. So let me tell you the agenda of today's session. So let me first of all share my screen and then I'll talk about this. Just do let me know whether my screen is properly visible or not. Is my screen is visible to everyone? Can you guys confirm to me? Is my screen is visible? I think it is visible, right? So here, if you will observe, I hope that those who are watching me live, they are already aware about the fact that we have a separate playlist where I have talked about a complete core concepts of DSA using Python, where we are starting from arrays till the part of dynamic programming. Graphs are also covered, means from the very scratch to the very advanced DSA part is already covered up in this playlist. Then if you remember in I think few months back or few weeks back only, I have taken up one more live. So there is a separate playlist by the name of Fang DSA interview series, where I have usually talked about the questions which are very frequently asked in the interviews. So whenever you will go to the interview, what are the questions which you can face? So those questions I have come up with this playlist where I have shared my own personal experiences also. So with whatsoever companies interviews I have given, whatever questions companies have asked from me, I have tried to cover up all of them. Few weeks back, I believe 3 weeks back only, I have taken one more live where I have talked about few problems like, if you remember, we have seen majority element, I believe that is the question. Then we have talked about missing number, peak element, square root of x, and so on. There I tried to do the coding live on the Leetcode platform. Now, today's agenda is little bit different. Although this is all about live Q&A of a lead code, but here I came up with one query. So I used to do mentoring of DSA as well. So many students used to ask to me that there are so many topics that we have in DSA, and that's so true. There are so many data structures that we have. There are so many algorithms that we have. So at what point of time, which particular algorithm or which particular data structure we should apply? Or if suppose we are from data science domain or we are from web development domain, हम किसी और domain में हैं but हमें DSA इतना करना है कि we will be able to crack the interviews. We want to do that much amount of DSA that we will be able to crack the interviews. So let me know what path should I follow, what things do I suppose to know, what are the standard questions that we should know in the lead code, so that we will be able to get our preparation done within few amount of time, and then maybe we can look upon the opportunities that we have outside for the job part, right? So this is one of the very important session for all those students who is having this kind of a query, because today what I will do is एक प्रॉपर फ्लो चार्ट बनाएंगे. विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम अ वेरी स्क्रैच कि क्या क्या चीजें हैं जो पता होनी ही चाहिए, मतलब you are from any background, if you want to go into a product based company in a technical side, so these many things if you should know, then it would be great chance that you will be able to get a good chance to crack any interview. So we will try to look upon that part, that now after the session, if you feel like that whatever concept is not clear to you, you can refer my playlist. All those concepts I have already covered up. Okay. And if you feel like that there is something which is missing but I have talked about in today's session, you can maybe let me know in the comment section or in the chat window. I'll definitely try to make a video on top of that. Might be there are few concepts which are missing, but as far as I believe, I have covered up almost everything in these playlists. Okay. So we will start from a very scratch, and then step by step we will try to cover up all those stuffs. Is the agenda is clear to everyone? Shall we start now? So I don't think that you will be able to, because I haven't made any of the video regarding this. So today we will talk about this thing. In between, if you got any sort of query, you can ask from me directly. Okay. So let's get started. Let's consider that. So here, first of all, I am talking about Leetcode interview questions. Leetcode interview questions, which are very, very important for you all to cover up. In a way, you can say that these questions follows a different format, which you should know. And if you know the different formats, patterns usually are same, you will be able to crack the code. Okay. So please try to understand, please be focused on this session, and please try to watch this session till the very end. Then only you will be able to make a sense of out of this, that what I'm trying to convey here. Okay. Let's consider that, let's say, as of now, the very first cases, which is the priority number one for everyone, to talk about the arrays and strings. So let's focus first of all, very first aspect of DSA, arrays or strings. So let's say you will be provided an input which is of arrays or strings. Okay. Now, in this case, if you will observe, now your array or string might be sorted or it might be unsorted. So there is a decision making that you have to follow on, that whether this input is a sorted array or this is a unsorted array. Let's say that your input is a sorted array. Yes. Or it can be unsorted, maybe no. So what will you say? If your input is a sorted array, what technique you know in DSA which you think there are high chances you would apply and you will be able to crack the question? Anyone who can give me a guess, or anyone is aware? I think everyone knows, but still, let's see how many of you will be able to answer me correctly. So what I'm saying is, let's say you have been provided an input, which is an array, and that array is a sorted array. So if that array is a sorted array, which particular technique or approach you believe in almost maximum questions you will apply, and you will be able to get a very apt answer to pass all the test cases that you have in Leetcode? Anyone who can answer me correctly? Can I get your DSA using Python? Everyone can get that. I have already shown you that there is a playlist which you can see of DSA using Python. There I have covered up everything from a very scratch. When I started my channel, I started from this playlist itself. And this is the playlist which you can refer in order to have a clear understanding about DSA using Python concepts. I hope it is clear, Anubhav Kumar. So Bhupesh is saying sorting technique. No. Again, listen my problem statement. What I'm saying is, if you have an input array, and if your input array is already sorted, in that case, maximum questions on Leetcode you will follow upon falls under the category of a binary search. Binary search, as already Dipansha Baya said that, right? So maximum questions you will see will belong to binary search if the array is already sorted. Okay, now in this binary search part, if you will observe, apart from this, you can have, there is another important approach which you should know, and there is something which we will call as two pointers approach, which I always say is very very important to understand. How many of you are aware about two pointers approach? I hope everyone must have heard this term or have used once, at least once, in your questions, in your lead code questions. So what I'm saying is, the very first thing in DSA, which is very important to understand. See, here I'm not talking about everything from scratch. Here I'm talking about, if suppose you already have completed my playlist, now you want me to know that on lead code, if you will go, which particular concepts are very very important to understand. And other part is, if suppose you will be having an interview, let's say 10 days or 20 days after this particular day, and you're saying to me that please tell me which important topics are there for DSA which I have to revise anyhow, because there are high chances that these questions will be asked. So those topics I'm talking about today, so please try to listen it out very much appropriately. By saying that, I'm not saying that skip the basic fundamentals. I have already covered up that, but these are the topics which you should focus on more after completion of that particular playlist of DSA using Python. I hope it makes sense to everyone. So the very first concept which I hope everyone now will focus on is binary search. Second important thing is two pointers approach, which is very very important in order to solve so many questions of leak code, in arrays. Okay, where we usually use two pointers. Maybe start will be at the starting address, starting index, end will be at the ending index, and then you will try to apply a while loop while start is less than end, and then you will apply some sort of stuffs inside that while loop and do the task. Make sense? Is this part is clear to everyone? Yes or no? So far so good. Can I move ahead? Okay, let's say that array is not sorted. Let's say the array is not sorted. So what the question is asking for? So let's say the question is asking for, let's say the question is asking for maybe finding out something, decisions which need to be made, decisions which are, I would say, impacted by several decisions or other decisions. Meaning that, let's say you want to focus on finding out the optimized solution, but in that optimized solution you need to focus on all the possible paths. So which particular technique in DSA you will apply to solve this problem? If this is the case, if let's say this is the case, then which particular technique you will apply to solve this problem in DSA? So I'm saying your problem is an optimized problem. What is the meaning of optimized solution? Let me tell you that part as well. In DSA, optimized meaning is either you are trying to find out maxima or you are trying to find out a minima of something. This is the literal meaning of, if someone says that you are trying to find out an optimized solution. Now what I'm saying is, in that solution, if your decision is impacted by asking other decisions, meaning you will have to find all the possible solutions, and in that possible solutions your decision will be out of all those possible solutions you will be having only single decision. In that case, what will be your approach? Anyone who can let me know? Any guesses? Anyone? I have talked about this again in my playlist. There are two approaches that we have in DSA to solve any optimized code, any optimized solution. Meaning anything where you want to find out the maxima or minima. No, not array list. It's an algorithm. Let me give you a hint. It's an algorithm. Either it will be divide and conquer, or it will be greedy, or it will be DP, dynamic programming. What do you think? Out of these three, what will be the answer? Anyone who can think of? Shall I repeat my problem statement again? What I am saying is, we will be having any problem. Let me give you one simple example. I hope you must have heard the problem of 0 1 knapsack or fractional knapsack, where we want to find the maximum profit given the weight, given the profit, given the objects. I hope you all remember. Now, there is a fractional knapsack also, there is a 0 1 knapsack also. Both are, first of all, ways to solve or to get a maximum profit. But fractional knapsack is an application of greedy algorithm, whereas 0 1 knapsack is an application of DP. Here, what I'm saying is, I want to find out all the possible values or possible solutions, and out of that, one of my solution is the best one. Which approach should I use? So, Harish is saying greedy, Sachin is saying DP, Bhupesh is saying DP, Anubhav is again saying due to the property of optimal substructures. So yes, this is something which I would say is dynamic programming. Dynamic programming is the correct answer. Many problems, wherever you will see that you have to find out multiple solutions. You want to look for all the possible paths, and out of those possible paths, only maybe one or not even two, only one. One is the final optimized solution. That will be the final one. So that's where you will apply an approach called as dynamic programming. So now whatever applications you know so far, or whatever applications you will see in Leetcode problems, that you will always observe will depend on decisions which are impacted by asking for other decisions. If that is not the case, either it will be yes or it will be no. If let's say it will be no, in that case, you will go for a greedy approach. So always remember, in order to solve optimized solution to get the maxima or minima, we will be having two ways. Either it will be DP or it will be greedy. But how you will get to know that whether I should apply DP approach on Leetcode problems or greedy approach? The only answer is you need to check that whether you have to find out all the possible solutions and then you have to find out the out of them only single solution, or a greedy approach will also work, where it's not like that you have to go to several paths and then you have to reach out to the final outcome. So that is another thing which you have to understand. So far so good. Is this point is making sense to everyone? Very, very important. Until so far, in all the sessions, I have talked about individual data structure, individual algorithms. This is the very first live session where I am combining everything and will try to help you out that now how you will get to know that at what point of time, which particular data structure or which particular algorithm we supposed to apply. I think I didn't make any of the video before that. And I'm not sure that whether any video is also available among in the complete YouTube also or not. So is this part is clear to everyone? Shall we move ahead now? Yes or no? This video will make sense to those people who are at least aware about whatever concepts I have covered up, in the playlist. Now, again, let's move ahead. If the question is asking for, if the question is asking for, let's say, Question is asking for balancing something. For example, whether the parentheses are valid or not. There is a very famous question of valid parenthesis. Or you need to find out a distance between elements. Distance between the elements that we have. In that case, which particular data structure which you will use? Anyone? So until so far, we got four important things. Third one is DP, which you should be aware of. Fourth one concept is greedy. Okay, let's move ahead now. If suppose question is asking for balancing part in the question, for example, valid parentheses, that whether the parentheses are valid or not, or to find out the distance between the two elements, which particular data structure you will use in order to solve this problem? Anyone who can answer me this question? Yes, in both of these scenarios, we will use stack-based data structure as said by Anubhav. If the question is asking for prefix matching, then which particular data structure you will use? Prefix matching. If a question is asking for prefix matching, which particular data structure you will use? Anyone who can give a try? Prefix matching. Very famous question on Leetcode. Now, whatever things I'm referring here, after the session, you can go and check it out. You will observe the most optimized approach you will be able to see via these techniques only. Prefix matching. Q, no, no, nope. I'm talking about the most optimized approaches. Which particular data structure you will use for prefix matching? Anyone? This is the fifth important concept in DSA. That would be try. Sixth important concept. So try data structure is the one which is very efficiently do the prefix matching task. Is this making sense to everyone? Yes or no? If the question is asking for that you need to find out finding a specific element, finding a specific element given any key, you want to find out a value, which particular data structure you will use here? You need to find a specific element given a particular key. Which particular DS you will use? Anyone? Very simple answer. Any response can I get? If the question is asking for finding a specific element given key, think over it. So simple, not at all difficult. These are the valuable things which you should know after learning complete DSA. If you know at what point of time, what particular data structure I will apply or algorithm I will apply, then only it will make sense to learn these stuffs. Can I say it will be dictionary or hashing based data structure? Anything you can say? Seventh important concept. I hope everyone agrees with me, right? In hashing, we always deal with something called as key value pair, and if suppose given a key, you will be able to get any kind of a value very, very easily. Yes or no? Is that fine? If a question is asking for, let's say, getting a maxima or minima continuously continuously. After each and every iteration of time, the question is asking for maxima or minima. Which particular DS you will use, DSA you will use here. Again and again, maximum or minimum value you want. Anyone. So that's where we will come up with the eighth concept, very, very important in DSA. Hi, ma'am, this may be out of context, but can you tell medium level DSA questions are enough for DS freshers? Yes. Easy to medium. At least try to cover up that part. Automatically, you will be able to get an idea to solve as many problems. Right? So, whenever you're solving Leetcode problems now, you have to think about that. It's not like that how many number of problems you are solving, as I always say. It's about how many different patterns you are solving in the given platform. And that's the today's session I'm talking about. What are the different patterns you will observe in Leetcode questions? And that's what the today's session is all about. So I will share the resource of today's session, whatever I'm writing here. Try to solve maybe 5 to 10 problems of every pattern. Then you will observe that you will be at a different level from today, because then you will be habitual that okay, this is the pattern. If new question will come, you will be able to apply that new pattern also. So as already said by Sachin, I have asked one question that you need to find maxima and minima continuously. Which particular DSA you will use? So the answer will be very much apt. As said by Sachin, it will be heap data structure. Where if you will observe, I have created a very quality video where I have talked about what is max heap. You can go and check it out. What is min heap? What is the complexity of that? I don't know how many of you have watched, but at the time when I make that video, it took me a lot me number of hours to do the research first, that how it should go, because uh, usually you will see that people confuse in this concept, but I tried to create this video in a way that it will be really helpful for you all to understand the concept of min heap and max heap. If anyone have missed this video, please go and check it out. I am 100% sure you will be easily able to get this concept as well. People usually find it very difficult. Okay, now let's move ahead. So if suppose there are problems, so if suppose the question is asking for, again let's make another flow. If suppose the question is asking for, there are many problems which you will see are of subarrays, or let's say substrings. In that scenario, there is very famous approach in Leetcode which again you will observe. Anyone who can guess? Anyone who can guess? It would be sliding window approach. Now these approaches, if anyone don't know, please go and check it out. Please try to study these approaches. Okay, sliding window approach, how it will work, what is the basis of that. Today I'm not talking about that. I think I have already made that concept very much clear, but I'm telling you these are the concepts which are very, very important to learn. Yes or no? So far so good. Can we move ahead now? Can we move ahead now? If suppose the question is asking for, let's say now your input is not a array or a string. This is the conversation all about arrays or strings. Now let's say your input is about trees. Let's say your input is given as a tree. Okay, in this case Just focus on binary tree whenever you are covering up the problems. That much is completely fine. Now, let's say if your question is asking for to find out specific depth or levels. In that scenario, which particular concept you will use in DSA? Anyone who can give me the answer? If a question is asking for, let's say, a tree is given to you and how many number of levels are there? So what will be your answer? Which concept you will use to get that answer? Let's say, which concept in DSA you should be aware of to get that output, to get that result, to get that pseudocode, to get that logic? Anyone who knows that part? Think over it. Let's say I will provide you a tree or a graph and I will say that tell me how many number of levels do we have? No, not DFS, it is BFS. Always remember, breadth first search is responsible to get that number of levels, because that's how the traversal is being done in BFS. Again, if you don't know, please refer the videos. BFS, all, for example, if suppose, let's say I will be having this tree. Okay. Let's say I will be having this tree. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 15. So BFS will traverse level wise 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 15 like this. So the answer will be BFS. Yes, BFS is only the one which is responsible for a level order traversal. One and the same thing, Arun. So internally, if you will observe in level order traversal, which algorithm is running? BFS. Make sense? Let's say if it is not asking like this, if it is not asking to any specific levels question or depth of a tree based questions, in that case, maybe you can go for something called as DFS, depth first search. Depth first search. Let's say if your question is asking, if your question is asking for finding out the shortest distance, then which particular path, which particular algorithm you will use? If your question is asking for finding out shortest distance, which particular algorithm you will use to get that? Anyone who can make a guess? This is the 10th important concept. This is the 11th important concept. BFS is the one which is specifically designed to get the shortest distance. Okay? BFS is the one which is specifically designed to get the shortest distance. If that is not the scenario, again, you can go for DFS. Right? If that is not the scenario, then you can go for DFS. Now, these are the core concepts which I have talked about just now. In order to understand maximum of these concepts like trees, like graph, like DFS, BFS is a graph based algorithm, like binary search also, where you are using something called as recursion. DP, again recursion is required. So the core of this complete DSA, I would say maximum concepts you will be easily able to solve if you know recursion. So I am making this on top of everything. Okay. Although I have not talked separately about this, but this is the core of understanding all the different concepts in DSA. The last important thing, let's say if your question is asking for another important aspect, which I want to touch upon. If your question is asking for, if your question is asking for, let's say, dividing the bigger problem bigger problem into various sub problems. You have been provided a bigger problem and you need to divide it into various sub problems. Which concept of DSA you will use here? Which concept of DSA you will use here? For example, there are so many questions in Leetcode that we have based on sorting or searching, or you can say there are multiple problems that we have for inversion count. Which technique in DSA you should know to get that idea? Very good. It is nothing but is D and D, not D and D. What is D and D, Arun? D and C. It is divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. So this is the important concept number 11. So these concepts will make sense to you only if, as I already said, knows the concept of recursion as well as, I would say, and backtracking. So I'm writing this on top of everything. I'm not writing it specifically. I hope you will be able to get a sense that there are topics that we have which we only able to solve or only able to understand, like DP, like divide and conquer, via the concept of recursion and backtracking only. Otherwise, you will not be able to get that. Why not DP? See, DP is only useful when you will be having a problem of overlapping subproblem. What is the meaning of that? The simple meaning is that you are trying to solve same functional calls. Recomputation is done on a same function calls. That's why DP came into picture. We can't use DP in every scenario. The major reason is that DP requires a lot of space, right? We are storing the values of every function call there, which we are not doing in case of a normal recursive code or normal divide and conquer application. So you have to see that in all the applications of divide and conquer which we are solving or which we usually solve, there is no overlapping subproblem. And wherever the overlapping problem came or complexity jumped towards exponential, that's where we use the DP approach. As I always say that, the ideal scenario in DSA is in complete flow of all the 11 concepts that I have talked about. The ideal scenario that we really want is, what is the ideal scenario in DSA? Ideal case is that our objective is to reduce both the time as well as the space complexity part. That's my ideal scenario. But usually there is a trade-off between these two. What is the meaning of trade-off? That if suppose you want to reduce the space, time is increasing. If you want to reduce the time, space is increasing somehow with several techniques that we have in DSA. So what we usually prefer, because we do have a space but we don't have a patience, we don't want any website to work to load 10 minutes, right? What we really looking for is, we're really looking for a lesser time if there is a trade-off, even though the space requirement is more. And that's where the concept of DP serves. Okay, the first priority is both are less. If both are not less, then let's say time is something which is very important for me as comparable to space as well. Okay. Can you please explain a brief way to approach a recursive solution? As sometimes I cannot think of a recursive solution all the way. See, whenever you will be having any of the recursive code or any of the question which can have any recursive code, you need to think about two important factors in any of the code. The first factor which you have to think of, that what can be the base case condition which I can apply. The literal meaning of base case condition will be that if the value is very small, for example, as I always take an example of a factorial where you know that the 0 factorial and 1 factorial is equal to 1. In that scenario, what will happen is the base case condition will be nothing that n is less than equal to 1. In that case, simply return the answer to me as 1. So literal meaning of base case condition is where you know that the time complexity will be constant. You will be easily able to return the answer without using any recursive call, without using any loop. Now, second important factor which you have to think over it is, okay, base case condition is done. What will happen when the value of n is bigger than 1? In that scenario, you need to see that what is your repetitive task? What is your repetitive task? For example, in factorial case, if you will observe, let's say I want to find out 5 factorial. My repetitive task will be 5 into 4 factorial, then 4 into 3 factorial, then 3 into 2 factorial, then 2 into 1 factorial. And that's where I reach to a base case condition where answer will be equal to 1. In a way, what I'm trying to do here is, what's my repetition here is, can I say I'm trying to return what? N into, let's say if my function name is fact of n, what I'm doing here is, I'm doing the same task but with different set of parameters. So what I will call fact of n minus 1. So this will help me to repeat the same thing again and again, but with a different set of parameters. And that's what we call as recursion, where this is the method name, and inside that I'm using the same method, but with different set of parameters. So two things you have to take care of. First of all, you can ask from me that how will I get to know that this is a recursive code? Check there is a repetition or not in a logic. If yes, then check what is the base case condition. Base case condition meaning where I will be able to directly return the answer without applying any of the looping, any of the recursive function call. Second thing, check what could be the recursive call now. Now, to get the time complexity of this recursive code, you should be aware about something called as a concept of recurrence relation. Again, I have already made this concept pretty much clear in my playlist. How you can generate a recurrence relation and how you can solve that by the 3 methods. One is something which we have with substitution, master's recursive tree. For example, here if you will see, this is a constant task C. Now, this is something which is repeating. So it will be T of n minus 1. Let's say fact of n will be T of n. So you are doing a multiplication, which is again a constant task. So it will be T of n minus 1 plus C. So your recurrence relation will look like when the value of n is less than equal to 1, it's a constant task. But when it is bigger than 1, it is T of n minus 1 plus C. So now if you will try to solve this recurrence relation by applying maybe substitution method, you will be able to get the time complexity as big O of n. So above function call will be able to get via the concept of something called as recurrence relation. So for any recursion code, you should be also have a very good knowledge of how the recurrence relation will be created, as well as how we can solve that recurrence relation to get that time complexity part. All these things are very, very important to understand. So I would suggest, before going to the depth of how divide and conquer algorithms work, how DP algorithm work, how greedy algorithm work, try to get a good expertise over the recursion concept. Very, very important. Otherwise, you will again face a lot of trouble. Okay. If you don't mind, can you please tell me, is Python language is good for DSA? Yes. See, DSA is independent of any programming language. I always say, if you are preparing for the interviews per se, to crack the interviews, I believe maximum students are here or audience is here who is here to crack the product-based companies. No company will tell you that, use this programming language, otherwise we will not opt for you. Company will never force you to write in any programming language. Even on any platform you will observe, whether you go to Leetcode or any other platform, they will always give you a preference, which particular programming language you want to write a code. It's just that you need to write a code in a way that it will be having a lower time and space complexity without any focus on which programming language you are using. Test cases will always pass if you are using an optimized code. Now, still, why this question came in many people? Because if you're moving towards the competitive programming part, nowadays, I'm not sure, but back, this is one of the most important topic actually. People usually ask from me that, is this a good idea to write a Leetcode rank, or how many questions I have solved in Leetcode in my resume? I would say no, not at all. Don't write it. If you're doing a code chef or code rank, if you're writing it, it makes sense because that's where the contest happens. and the solutions were not available. But in lead code, if you will observe, it's very easy to get the solutions from any other person as well. So it doesn't give the, I would say, credibility that you are very good in the logical aspect. I would not suggest that write any rank of lead code in your resume. And this question of which programming language should be there, if you want to become a good competitive programmer per se, you want to get a number 1, number 2 AIR rank in code chef code rank, that's a separate scenario where I would say go for maybe Java or C++, because those are the fast programming languages in terms of executing the code as comparable to Python. But if your focus is to get the good companies solving the lead code questions, Python is also good. I hope it makes sense to everyone. Okay. Thank you so much. Is competitive programming necessary for getting a good job? No, it's not necessary. See, either you can, there are two ways, two paths are there, as I always say. First path can be a decent lead code programmer. You should know how to solve the problems. As I taught about the concepts, you should know all these concepts. After that, you should have a good project in your resume. I would say that that's a better idea. Even that's the idea which I also followed at my time. If I talked about personally my experience, if I'll share to you, I'm not a good, number one ranker in any code chef or code force per se. And even I have spent my time, but not that much, because I have spent my more of the time doing the internships or cracking good competitive exams, or doing the good projects. So that's where I have spent my time. Time is limited. We all have 24 hours in a day. It's your wish how you want to spend. If you genuinely feel like that, solving logical questions makes you happy, motivated, then go for it. I'm not stopping you. But if you feel like that your goal is just to crack the companies and to get a logical aspect, making that much good, so that's where lead code platform is awesome, right? It's not necessary. By saying that, please try to make your portfolio in such a way that you should the interviewer will feel like that you are all rounder. You should have a good project in your resume. If possible, try to get a good college, maybe IITs, NITs, or if possible, try to get good internships from good companies, product based companies, right? So these things will make a better resume for you, and it's not necessary that you should be a good competitive programmer for that part, right? um, I hope it makes sense to everyone. So I think now I have completely give you a idea about how you will be, or what particular questions you need to focus on for the lead code part. And please don't write lead code rank or how many number of questions you have solved in the lead code in your resume, because I have seen so many resumes where freshers are writing these things. Doesn't make sense at all. Doesn't make sense at all. Okay. Um, my approach is taking one data structure and doing all is in medium. It is an efficient approach, or is there anything which is better? It is fine. As of now, it is fine. First of all, complete with the flow, just like the way you are doing, and then merge up, doing multiple questions with different concepts. That's where you will get to know the actual idea. See, as of now, let's say you studied arrays, and you are solving only arrays questions of easy and medium. But once you know everything, at that point of time, it's a real test where you will check that is the arrays quite efficient, or dictionary is quite efficient. That's what the today's session is all about, right? At what point of time, which particular algorithm or which particular DS you should apply, that's the real game which you want to achieve. For that, you should have a real knowledge of all the concepts that we have in DSA. Then only you will be able to decide. So you should know what are the pros and cons of every algorithm, every DS that we have. Then only you will be able to enjoy that part which I am trying to convey here. Okay. It's been 50 minutes almost, and I believe that you find it informative. Please do hit like button. Share this video with everyone, those who really want to, look for this kind of a video, because so many students have asked me this question, and I can't answer everyone's question in the chat window. So I thought that let's take up live, and we'll try to answer all your questions live itself. Um, I think we are good to go. If you don't have any questions, I think I have answered all the questions, whichever questions have been asked in the chat window, right? So, with this, let's end today's video. I'll see you all very soon in the next upcoming live where we will talk about further new concepts. Thank you so much for joining in. Thanks a lot.